المبادرة الجميلة التي تتبع البرنامج الوطني للسعادة وجودة الحياة، واللي تهدف إلى بناء المهارات الحياتية الأساسية لأفراد المجتمع، وفيها ندعوكم إلى جلسة بعنوان مهارات حياتية لتعزيز الصحة النفسية باللغة الإنجليزية، تقدمها الدكتورة صالحة أفريدي، المؤسس الشريك ومدير عام مركز لايت هاوس أريبيا للصحة النفسية. فلتتفضل مشكورة. وين الدكتورة؟ أهلا وسهلا. نحن مهتمين نحترمكم أدبيا في هذه الجلسات، فخليني أعطي نبذة عنك عشان يعرفونك، يعرفون منو اللي يتكلمهم. دكتورة صالحة أفريدي طبيبة نفسية إكلينيكية، شاركت في تأسيس The Light House بهدف إحداث تأثير إيجابي على الصحة العقلية للأفراد والعائلات التي تعيش في هذه المنطقة، وهي متمكنة بتدريب عام وخبرة في مجموعة واسعة من قضايا الصحة العقلية على مدار العقد الماضي. كانت لديها خبرة واسعة في الاستشارات مع المديرين التنفيذيين ومكان العمل في الشركة حول مجموعة من القضايا المتعلقة بالصحة وإدارة الإجهاد والتدريب والاستشارات التحويلية. هدفها وشغفها هو العمل مع الأفراد والفرق ومنحهم الشجاعة لمواجهة التحديات التي تواجههم وإرشادهم إلى طريق السعادة. نترككم مع الدكتورة صالحة أفريدي.
Thank you. So I hope he said good things. Excuse me, I will be speaking in English. I don't speak Arabic. I'm originally from Pakistan, so just letting you guys know that my daughter does speak Arabic though, so I am working on that. So thank you for having me. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it truly is such an honor to be here. I've been in the UAE now for 14 years, and the Lighthouse started 11 years ago. And we've really just been on a mission here to be having this conversation. So today is actually quite an emotional day for me that we are having this conversation in this way. So I just want to say thank you. Let's see. So we are going to be talking about mental health first aid in the UAE. Now, when we started the Lighthouse, we really just had one mission. We wanted a future where workplaces, schools, communities, families, all of these places would see that mental health was an important part of health. And that there is no health without mental health, and it's really just one thing. We also wanted a future where mental health care was accessible to people, to everyone, everywhere. And what were we going to do? This was our task as clinicians at the Lighthouse. What were we going to do to break down some of the barriers that are in place when it comes to seeking support for mental health? I know that we're having these conversations now. Actually, a few years ago, pre-COVID, we couldn't even say the word mental health. We couldn't say mental health. We had to say emotional health in such conversations. So the fact that we're just saying this, we realize how big the stigma is around the words mental health and seeking support for mental health care. So stigma is a huge, huge part of why people are not seeking support. The statistics show that it takes a person about 7 years before they actually seek support. 7 years where they're suffering in silence, and many people don't even seek support because 2 out of 3 people who are struggling will not get mental health care because of the stigma associated with it. So there's a lot of shame, a lot of isolation, a lot of fear that people have, that maybe I'll lose my job, or maybe no one will want to be with me, or maybe I'll lose my place in the community. And in collectivistic cultures like the UAE, like the Middle East region, culture and family and society is very important to us. And so we want to make sure that we're not seen in a way that is stigmatized within that society. So how do we break down stigma? We have such conversations, and I'm just happy that we're doing that. But there's also a lack of awareness. Many people that we trained as mental health first aiders through the Lighthouse were not even aware that they were suffering with anxiety. They were like, well, I've just been like this my whole life. I didn't know that this could be fixed, actually. They actually thought it was their personality. So they actually didn't see it as a clinical issue that they could work with or resolve. Then when we have the misinformation, we have a lot of fear, we have a lot of stigma, we have shame, we have isolation. But then we have things like the high cost of individualized care. That is an issue here. We deal with that all the time at the Lighthouse. We have to provide discounted sessions, or someone can't afford it because they lost their job, and mental health care is not covered in the insurance plans. And if you do cover mental health insurance, the plan is just really, really expensive and unaffordable for businesses as well as for individuals. So the high cost of care is very important. Now, one thing that is happening in other parts of the world that I would love to see happen here in the UAE, if we were to break down that stigma, is that we have group interventions. So you have an evidence-based treatment that is done in a group format for anxiety, for depression. Now, we've tried to do that at the Lighthouse, honestly, but it never took up because no one wants to talk about their anxiety or depression in a group. And so that's why we haven't been able to do it yet. But I believe that if we were to break the stigma, we would be able to have these group interventions that would be more affordable. There's also a shortage of mental health care providers and the accessibility to those providers. The UAE has a huge shortage when it comes to mental health care providers. And not just the UAE, across the world, in the world, especially after COVID, so many people left the industry. They left the medical industry, they left the mental health industry, and they said they're burnt out and we need a break. So right now, the world's needs are high, but the shortage of the people to care for those needs is low. So we really do need to build capabilities in our communities. And then there is the prioritizing of other competing health concerns. The other health concerns, we have issues like autoimmune diseases or cancers or other physical illnesses. When someone is suffering from those illnesses, they are going to prioritize those more than they would say, well, I need to, this is just because of lack of information. Oh, well, I'm feeling sad, and I felt sad for the last 3 months, but I've got to go get my chemotherapy, or I've got to get my radiation. So again, insurance would be one of those things that might resolve this kind of tension inside of them. But the facts are clear. 25% increase in mental health difficulties like depression and anxiety post-COVID. The facts are clear that 1 out of 4 people in the world, this is not something that happens in the West or the East or the Middle East, 1 out of 4 people is suffering, has suffered, and will suffer with a mental health condition. This is not just something that happens to someone outside, somewhere over there. It happens to all of us, and we will all, 100% of us, will come in contact with it at some point, because someone we know might be struggling, or we might be struggling, and we won't know what to do in that time. And so that's why I think systematically learning how to address these issues is going to help us intervene early. And when we intervene early, the prognosis is better. People have their lives back. It's a less intense and it's a shorter treatment. Early intervention is as close to prevention as you can get. So if I know that I am suffering, and that might happen, when our challenges are so high and our internal resources feel quite drained. Any one of us can have, anxiety or depression show up in us. When that shows up in us, if I know, oh, this is starting to feel like a clinical issue here, I'm gonna intervene early, I'm gonna seek therapy early, I'm gonna seek treatment early. And less likely to feel more compromised. I'm less likely to have serious impairment show up. But then when I actually do go for treatment, the treatment is shorter. Because I didn't wait till the very bottom, when I hit rock bottom, because coming back from rock bottom is very different from coming back from when you just went under, right? And so seeking treatment early is going to be very, very important. This is where mental health first aid comes in. Now, mental health first aid is a program out of Australia. This program is now in 23 countries, and the Lighthouse provides that through, it holds the license for the UAE. Now, mental health first aid is equivalent to physical first aid. If all of you knew that you would need to perform CPR on someone in your life, 1 out of 4 people in your life, wouldn't you all go get physical first aid? You would. Now, if I tell you 1 out of 4 people in your life is going to struggle with a mental health condition, and you're gonna need to respond sensitively to that person so that you don't necessarily aggravate that person or agitate that person or increase their shame in some way, because we are so well-meaning and we have really good intentions, but sometimes we end up saying things like, it's not that bad, don't be so negative, or, be strong, just be happy, be positive. We say things like this. Of course, we're doing it out of love and care for the other person, but that really can make the person feel like, well, maybe something is very wrong with me because I can't seem to shake it off. And depression and anxiety, addictions, these things are not something that you can just shake off. You need to work with a professional who can help you overcome these difficulties. So mental health first aid is a program, it is a 10-hour program that teaches you how to know the signs, you take action, and you get the person to the help you need, that they need. Now, when you are performing CPR, you're not the doctor, right? You're just performing the CPR, and then comes the ambulance, and then comes the person who will be treating that person. That's what you become. You become a first responder. So I believe it is almost dangerous that we raise awareness without raising literacy. It is dangerous to raise awareness, to say it is okay to say you're not okay, but then not teach people how to respond sensitively to people that are struggling. So I would really encourage you guys to consider mental health first aid programs or having mental health first aiders within your organizations. It is evidence-based. There's research that shows that it works. It gets people to the help they need, and it breaks down stigma. 2 things happen, and it actually will benefit the person who is learning. So unlike CPR, only the person who's receiving the CPR helps, right, is being helped. But with mental health first aid, everybody is getting better. The person who is the first aider, but also the person who is the one that's being responded to. It is award-winning, and what we have done is we've taken the Australian program and we've adapted it to the local laws, the local sensitivities, and the local resources, because that is actually quite different than in other places. And it is internationally recognized. So you get a 3-year certification, and then we have a booster session that you do once the 3 years are up, just to keep it going. We also have free support sessions that you have every month, so in case you come up with a difficult conversation, you actually have supervision that you can get with a licensed professional at the Lighthouse. So what we recommend at the Lighthouse, and this is what best practice would be, is that everyone should have the basic 101 when it comes to mental health. And that is through a talk that we do, which is called Your Mind Matters. The next thing is that the leaders and anyone that supports people, at least 25% of those people within your firm or within your organization should get trained in the Champions. The Champions is a 4-hour course that we have created that tells you that, okay, this person is struggling and let me respond sensitively to that. And then there is the mental health first aid, which we recommend 25% of your workforce to be able to be trained in that. And that is the 10-hour course. You get a manual, you are learning the signs of depression, anxiety, addictions, and other more serious mental health conditions, and you're learning how to respond to that. We've been licensed since 2017. We've trained almost 4,000 first responders in the UAE, something that we're very proud of, and we hope to continue this journey. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for me? Yeah.
Many thanks for everything that you just highlighted. I think it's really very informative. I would like to ask you about your opinion. Do you think maybe we should consider the mental health factor while we recruit people? I mean, the UAE is eager to be one of the best countries, and I believe that all the workers should be healthy mentally. How do you think we can start something like that here?
Well, you can think about checking on people's mental health, and I think everyone would say, yes, I have good mental health, so maybe that's not going to be the best way to approach this. But I think every company, every organization needs to know that when you have challenges and a person has vulnerabilities, and they have low resources, meaning they have low capabilities, that's when they're going to have compromised mental health. And it's a challenging life that we have right now. We live in a world which is volatile, it's uncertain, moving very fast. So we can assume that this is a stressful time for most people. Now, if we know that, then we need to take it as a retention issue. We need to see this as an innovation issue. We need to see this as a creativity issue, that when we invest in our most important resource, which is our people, we are building capabilities, and it is going to impact our country. It's going to impact our bottom line in the end. So investing in people is never going to be the wrong choice. I don't know about checking on people's mental health before they join. I don't think that would work. But building resiliency needs to be part of every people program.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. Sure. Am I done? Yeah. Thank you.
نتحراها عربية والله. Thank you, Dr Saliha Afridi, for the wonderful session. شكرا طبعا للدكتورة صالحة أفريدي من مدرسة الحياة.